Hello, and welcome to the Rockies Hockey Podcast. I'm RT, and this is episode 4 here today. Hope you're all having a good day. Thank you so much for taking the time to click on the podcast and taking the time to listen to it. And thank you so much for all of those who have listened to previous podcasts and listened to them. Thank you so much for checking out my thoughts, and hope you're enjoying listening to the podcast. And hope you enjoyed this one. Today, it's going to be an interesting podcast to discuss since it's been a week of ups and downs for the Calgary Flames. 5-3 win against Seattle with a comeback where Tkachuk had a hat trick, and then a 6-1 thumping at the hands of the Golden Knights, where we played one of the worst games of the year, in my opinion at least, and then a 9-1 win against Arizona. So there's a lot to be happy about, and I'm a little bit frustrated. But we'll get to that later. So it's been an interesting week. We're going to be talking about a bunch of stuff, and only 2 weeks left till the playoffs now. Sorry, I'm going to check the calendar to make sure I'm not bugging right now. Because I can just check out the Calgary Flames schedule that's upcoming. Take a look at that. I will be touching, I think, on more of this a little bit later. But yeah. So after this, there's only going to be 2 more episodes until the playoffs officially start. So we're going to have one next week. We're going to talk about 4 games next week, and after that, we'll be having into the podcast that will start off the playoffs. So I'm really excited for that. Only 2 weeks left of the regular season. Wow. It feels like part of me feels like I just started watching this year and like the ups and downs of the entire year. But yeah, looking back, it's been a really, really fun year for the Flames, and especially to watch them. But yeah, that's where we're at. So what will we be talking about? Obviously, 3 games versus Seattle, Vegas, and Arizona. After we'll be talking about just kind of the upcoming stuff for the Flames, what the final 2 weeks kind of look like, and how it's sort of shaping up to kind of the end of the regular season. Afterwards, we'll be just talking about a couple of like the other stuff that regards just the playoffs. Kind of just what the playoff situation looks like for all the teams, who's going to make it, what some of the matchups are looking like, who may not make it, the wild card race, just my thoughts on all of that stuff going on, and just stuff, I guess, what it kind of looks like for the Flames as they move into the playoffs, who've all officially clinched as well. I think I'm just going to be touching briefly on the Maple Leafs since I am starting to follow them a little bit more. I'm not cheering for them. I just like to watch them kind of fail a lot of the times. Like they lost 5-2 to the Sabres, and also Auston Matthews on is incredible here. I just wanted to just take a look at that and just share my thoughts on that situation on the Leafs. Some of the NHL debuts like Power and Beniers. Beniers has had his debut against the Flames. And then finally, this one was a last second thing I want to talk about. Treliving on Johnny Gaudreau, because he was talking about that on After Hours on Sportsnet, and he had a very interesting thing to say, and we'll get to that at the end there. So, first things first. Against Seattle. Maybe I might go a little bit out of order here. I think let's start with the Seattle game. Okay, I was kind of just like thinking we should go to order. So this one was a little bit of an interesting one since I wasn't able to actually watch it, and so I just had it recorded and then watch it afterwards. I didn't reveal myself the score or anything. Watched it. All I did was just see if Johnny Gaudreau got to 100, and he did. He got to 101 by the end of the game. He had 2 assists. That's all. That was the thing. I was giving me a little bit of stress, just the thing that I was really looking for, and that happened, so I'm good. Other than that, a 5-3 win against Seattle. I'm just going to pull up the numbers from this game. So this was a good game. Considering the fact that Johnny Gaudreau got 100, Matthew Tkachuk got a hat trick, and we came back. That being said, why did we have to come back? This is the Seattle Kraken there. I'm just going to take a look at this, peep at the standings. Believe they're one of the bottom teams in the entire NHL right now. Bottom 5, third last. Montreal and Arizona are below them. I mean, those 2 teams are some other versions of horrible hockey. But Seattle is maybe the most reasonable, maybe out of all the reasonable teams in the NHL, the worst team. Because Montreal and Arizona are not very reasonable. That's how bad they are, in my opinion. Why did they go up 3-1 and we had to chase a lead against them? Which is what I think actually pissed me off most about this game. Why did we go down 3-1? So yeah, to get a recap, Donato scored, and actually Beniers had in his first career game and his first career point with the assist on that goal. Come on, seriously? And then Matthew Tkachuk would tied it up about 2.5 minutes later. And then like in the second, we just kind of combust. They scored 2 goals, Victor Rask and Adam Larson. Um, we're down 3-1. It's like, bro, I wasn't even surprised. After watching the first period, actually, I watched the first period live and then was busy with other stuff, so I couldn't watch the other two periods. After I watched the first, I was like, the Flames are just going to lose this game like 11-1. And I know I was over-exaggerating. I knew I was over-exaggerating, but that was kind of pretty much my frustration. How do you go down? Like, how do we... That was a horrible first, by the way. I'm going to go into some of the statistics, I think, here. Some of the numbers. To get an idea of it here. Play by play, I don't know what the shots on goal are after the first, but they were horrible, in my opinion, at least. But whatever. Let's forget that. But um, this was one of the worst games. Not worst games. A pretty bad game, I would say, and it just showed that, like, pretty bad game. Always one of the worst games, other than the Vegas game in the last like 2 weeks. Because even though we won, we went down 3-1. We barely managed to tie it. We had so little energy. And again, it gets back to that point that I mentioned, I think, last podcast. Again, it's also meshed into my head because last time I covered 6 games and they're all like mushed into my head. These three, Seattle, Vegas, and Arizona, are pretty distinctly in my head, though. Where's the effort? Like, seriously, where's the effort? Because, like, it just felt like we didn't care. We weren't in it. We went down 3-1. And this is the frustration. Just because you're a playoff team, this is for Calgary, by the way. Just because you're a playoff team, just because you're first in the Pacific, just because you're the first in your division with a massive lead over whoever's second, like, there's no question you're going to go into the playoffs first seed in your division. Just because just because you have so many good players, just because you've been winning so much, doesn't mean you cannot try against these. You can stop trying. Because everyone else is trying. Colorado's still trying. Colorado's still beating teams. Colorado's still getting points. Like, they're having an insane year. They're still doing stuff. They're still doing so much damage to teams. Even though they're first in the league and first in the Western Conference by a wide margin. Just because they have all of that and they're still trying doesn't mean we can stop trying to be like, oh, yeah, let's just cruise to the playoffs now. And we did a good job of that on the road trip, I think. We were a little bit sloppy, but I think we've played pretty consistent hockey through those 4 games on that road trip. We come here and we were down 3-1 end of 2 by the end of the second. Just disappointing. Like, I don't know if there's a better way to put it. Am I glad the Flames won? Of course I am. Of course I am. 5-3 comeback win shows that we can win it under different circumstances. It was actually, I would say this was kind of similar to the Dallas game where we came back. We were down 3-1, and then we came back in like the last, I think, 5 or 10 minutes of the third against Dallas, where we scored like 3 quick goals and won the game in regulation. This was kind of similar because in the third, like, first 2 was Markstrom, and then we switched and got Vladar in goal. He should have been in goal the whole game, by the way, and that's another thing. I'm going to get to that later. I think I'm going to get to that after I'm done talking about the games. Another pretty frustrating thing for me, personally. Vladar should have played the entire game, and he finally comes on. I'm like, okay, well, finally you bring this guy in. And I think Sutter didn't do it because he thought Markstrom was playing bad. I didn't think Markstrom was playing bad. I think he should have been on top of the Larson goal, which made it 3-1 Seattle. I think Markstrom should have been on top of that one. But regardless, I wouldn't really blame Markstrom for that. The entire team was playing absolute garbage. And we bring Vladar in. I was like, okay, well, sure, that maybe gets the team going, and it did. Right? Like, we tied this up really quickly. Johnny Gaudreau gets his 100th point of the year. Kachuk gets a goal. Like, it was just finally, like, we're back into this one. And I wasn't even that excited. I was like, okay, well, yeah, this is expected. We should be doing what we're doing. If I'm sounding harsh, I get it. My brother, who I watched these games with, he also told me that I'm sounding pretty harsh on the Calgary Flames. I'm being a little hard on them. But yeah, 3 really quick goals, right? 2 quick goals to tie it up, and then a third by Hanifin. Hanifin, by the way, wow, 4 assists in the 4-1 win against Seattle previously, and then a goal and an assist, I believe, in this one. So a really good game from him. I have to put that out there. He's been playing really well of late. So it's been Kachuk who had the hat trick, which was also really awesome. He had the final one, the empty netter. Just really having a second career hat trick from him. You wouldn't think, considering overall how high end skill he has, and he's shown this year. But Yeah, really awesome for him. So yeah, now all three of the first liners have hat tricks this year, which is nice. But yeah, it shouldn't have been like this, honestly. We had 4 goals in the third there, one of them empty netters, just to seal the game. I think, and in the third, Laura came in. He made a couple of really big saves. He had a breakaway. His first save was on a breakaway. They mentioned that in the broadcast a couple of times. And I'm happy. Vladar has just been playing great. I think he's underrated. I think he's not being appreciated for what he's doing. Or it's honestly, he's. I think for me, in my opinion, Vladar has been treated like sort of just the backup, quite literally the backup, and that you only play him when you need to. When you need your backup playing, you play him. Right? When it's on a back-to-back or either your starter shirt, that's when you play Vladar. That's how he's been treated. I don't think that's fair because he's been playing so well in general for this team that I don't think it's just. I think he definitely deserves to have more starts than he does and more starts than he's going to finish the season with. That's my thoughts on it. But he played well, right? Got the energy back, and we won the game. Yay, good job. 2 more points. 5-game winning streak. Like, what do I really have to say about this? I'm just going to take a look at some of the stats. Yeah, we only had to kill 2 penalties. We were 2 for 5 on the power play, though, which was good. Down the ground here, yeah. I mean, Seattle, they fight. They may not look, they're a weak team, but they fight. And I respect that. And they've gotten rid of so many. Like, they have really just, like, when they sold a lot of their key players at the deadline, like Gio, Yarncrow. Yarncrow's on the Flames now, which is nice. He's playing pretty well, I think. Yeah, it's nice. I think everyone had pretty balanced ice time. Again, as I mentioned last game, Gaudreau, Chuck Lindholm, those 3 guys didn't play as much as they do, but I think they played more tonight, and obviously more power play time. That helped them out. Yeah, I think this was a pretty solid game from the Flames. Just to come back, yeah, pretty solid game for the Flames, because considering they won, but it should have been a lot better. Like, come on. The third was really good, but the first 2 were just absolute hell. But regardless, and then we think we win. We think it's all right. Oh well, who all wins are wins, I guess, and that's kind of the only thing that's making me somewhat satisfied by the Flames. Some of the Flames' performances this year, or I guess of late, at least. Comes the Vegas game. Flames win this game, they would have clinched on a nice win over a Vegas team that's fighting hard for a playoff spot, and yet we lose 6-1. One of the worst. Like, this was just a horrible performance for the Flames. And I'm gonna actually for this one I actually want to share something about this game. Right? Flames are up 1 and then Dubé scored. I was like, yeah, let's go. I made it 1-1. Who cares? Well, whatever. It's fine. That was gonna happen. They're gonna push back. They're a strong team. Make it 2-1. I was like, oh no, damn it. But what are you gonna do? That's fine. It's only 2-1. We can come back. And then basically Amadio scores, makes it 2-1. I was like, oh no. I mean, sorry, it makes it 3-1. I was like, oh no, dang it. It's getting worse. No, I didn't say dang it yet, at least. And then like 30 seconds later, Marchessault scores. Or 40 seconds later. And I was like, oh gosh, here we go. And then Nick makes it like 5-1. And I was just in frustration. Like, yeah. And by the way, Markstrom was switched after the Marchessault goal. And makes it 5-1. And I was just applauding the Flames on their tremendous effort as they're about to clinch. No, it wasn't. And then basically we actually had takeout that day, and so I just decided to like record the third on the TV and just forget it and like go up and enjoy dinner as much with my family as I could, considering how badly we got thumped, or being thumped. And I was kind of just checking the score casually, made it 6-1, and I was actually proud of the Flames for at least for keeping it to 6-1. Like, I wouldn't have been surprised if it was 8-1 or 9-1 at the end of that game. And so I actually didn't really watch the third. I was like, oh, whatever. And so actually, literally, as we've been talking, I'm gonna put on the video for the shorthanded goal that Erik Karlsson. Shorthanded, come on, we're better than that, right? I guess I don't know. This was a pretty bad game. I was frustrated. Literally, like, I was like going to a rebuild at this point, and I actually wanted to make a bit of I actually wanted to make I actually wanted to literally make a video or record something right after this game. Like, it was during the night, but whatever. I thought I would just get that out there to get my frustration out. But look, I think I kind of calmed down after that. I think eating, like just having dinner, like spending time with the family made me feel better, made me kind of put the game on mind. I feel like if I just finished watching the third and then just sat around and thought about this game, I would have basically lost it. I thought I needed to do this, and I almost did make a quick recording, but I thought I'd share my frustrations here. But yeah, I was angry, really, really angry. I was saying some stuff like Flames should go into a rebuild, which obviously I don't mean it, but come on, it was that bad. It's that bad. I'm just gonna take a look at the short-handed goal that Carlson scored in the third, late in the third. Are you serious? We're literally letting them have a bunch of all in the zone. I'm sorry. So yeah, come in. We kind of get it back. Oh gosh. We give it away in the zone. Bit of a corner battle. Are you serious? No way. I mean, I would have expected it to be done like a breakaway or a short-handed rush. So Mangiapane kind of bumps it off. It's a corner battle, but the Flames lose it in the corner. Dodonov, what? Yeah, literally all our boys just stand around and do nothing as Carlson whips that home. Oh my god. That's shambolic. As Steve Danko would say. But that was horrible. Yeah, one of the worst performances of the year, and I don't think that's much of a question there. It's not no real competition, honestly. Ooh, yuck. But yeah, I have the game open here again. But just to look at some of the numbers for this one. Our PK was 3 of 4. Okay, I guess. Power play was 1 of 3. Did have that one goal it was on the power play too. Yeah. Okay. Oh my god. And somehow, some way, Gaudreau still has like a plus 55 after this game. Insane. The year he's having. Like, I don't know. There's really, for me, no way to describe this. One thing I do want to use is a bit of a comparison here. Remember, I was looking on Twitter, and Steve Dangle said about the 5-2 loss to Buffalo for the Leafs. He said he saw a TikTok video of some doctors at a zoo unclogging a constipated elephant, and it was disgusting. I checked it out afterwards. And he said that he would have rather watched that on a 2.5-hour loop for 2.5 hours instead of watching that game against the Sabres. And I would pretty much say the same thing about this game. That I would have watched them unclogging a constipated elephant over this game, and I didn't even watch the entire game. Because I didn't watch the third, and I think I might just go back and watch it and see if we tried. We outshot them 36-25. Like, that has to be an indication that, like, we have to be better. Obviously, like, horrible loss. I was just frustrated. Like, honestly, we didn't even deserve to clinch after this game, and I thought the Flames, when they clinched after this game, Saturday before the game against the Coyotes, when Edmonton beat Vegas 4-0. Vancouver beat Vegas 5-1, if I'm not mistaken. So that just shows that, well, Vancouver beats this team, Edmonton beats this team in weekend. That's not good. Yeah, I'm frustrated for sure for this one. This one's just a horrible game. What else? Sorry, one more thought that I did have that I wanted to talk about, and now it's leaving me. Yeah, with the clinching. Edmonton beats them, that means we clinch. So thank you, Edmonton, for helping us clinch. I appreciate it. Doing a favor. So now that we're in, I was disappointed that we shouldn't have clinched then. And I'm not saying that we don't deserve to clinch. We definitely do. We're a very good team. We've had a good year. Flames have had a good year. But come on, clinching after a loss is what pissed me off. I mean, come on. That's not the type of team we are. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have clinched. Obviously, get clinched as soon as possible. But that's not the type of team we are. We like to clinch after a 6-1 loss. And heck, even as we're losing to Arizona 1-0. That's when we clinch. Not our brightest moment to clinch. But I guess we do, and we're clinched. And that was a pretty good feeling that we've made it, even though I wasn't necessarily worried about us not clinching. But yeah, it's a horrible performance. And then you get to the Arizona game, and I was thinking, I'm gonna record this pod. I'm gonna record and just let out all of my frustrations. Flames almost lose to the Kraken with a horrible performance. We get crushed by the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Flames somehow not trying lose to the Coyotes, being down, allowing a goal 30 seconds into the game. is what I thought the podcast was going to be, because that's how bad the Flames were playing in the first period. And then we score 6 in the second, 3 in the third, and win 9-1. Throttle the Coyotes. Joel Kachuk Lindholm each had 4 points in this one. That's what I'm saying. Whew. I have a lot. Bunch of those. Okay, for a second, I'm looking at some of the numbers here for the game sheets and the game statistics for each of the players. I just looked at. I saw the Coyotes one. It was like a bunch of minus. I'm like, wait, is this the Flames? Thought it was the Flames for a second with like minus 3. Like what? Wow. Gosh is fair with -4. Sheesh. Can look at the Flames. Wow, we had a very nice game. Not gonna lie though. So look at the points. Gaudreau with 2 goals, 2 assists. Kachuk with 2 goals, 2 assists. Linden with a goal and 3 assists. Mangiapane with 2 points. Dubé with 2 points. He had 2 goals. Backlund with a point. Wow, this was a good game. Zadorov had 2 assists. Want to say good job, but my thoughts on this one. So at first when you started watching the game, I actually didn't realize the Flames had clinched. And it takes me back to a distant memory from 2018-19, where this is the only Flames game that I've been to watch in the Saddle Dome. And I was really, really high up in the Upper Dome. I was pretty young. I knew more or less the game. I was really into the Flames, and the Flames were having a great year. And I was watching the Flames against the Kings. And you might know what game I'm talking about. It was back in 18-19. I have to maybe check. I'm not going to look for the exact date, whatever. And in this game, I believe, and I could be wrong about this, but I believe the Flames won that game. They would have clinched for the playoffs that year. If we beat the LA Kings. And the LA Kings were horrible that year. And for me, I was really excited to watch the Flames and just crush the LA Kings. And about 52 seconds, if I'm not mistaken, into the game, the Kings score, and it's 1-0 LA in my first and only ever, well, I guess up till now, my first ever Calgary Flames game that I'm watching in the Saddle Dome. And I'm like, dang it. And I'm there with my family. And they're like, so now what? We're down 1-0. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Literally, I was pretty disappointed. But oh well, it's only like 1 minute. And like basically nothing happens for the entire game. And we hit the third. And they make it 2-0. And I was like, oh no, are we losing today? Oh well, it's alright. Well, maybe we'll just get a goal at least, right? Right? And they scored one in the empty net, I think. Or maybe they just scored it normally. I don't remember. It's 3-0. And I was like, oh no. And we get shut out. So not only do the Flames lose, not only lose in my first and currently the only ever time I went to the Saladin to watch a Flames game. And not only lose in the game they should have clinched, and not only lose to a very, very weak team that year, they also get shut out under all those circumstances. And I saw this happen, and I saw the Coyotes, and I didn't realize the Flames had clinched. And I was like, oh no, Coyotes go 1-0 in the first minute. I know how this is going to end. And I quite literally envisioned the exact same game as that LA game I'm talking about. And maybe that wasn't a clinching game. Maybe the Flames already clinched, or maybe it was far away. But that's how I remember it, at least. And I could be wrong about that, and well, I'm not. And I was basically just expecting now it's going to be 0-0, a okay, mediocre game at both sides, until we hit the third, and the Yotes will score 2 more. So finishes out 3-0 in a game we should win, and we don't clinch again. And then basically they make it 1-0, and I'm just like, yep. And I was basically, before the game, I was also saying the Flames are just not going to try, and they're going to lose. I was pretty right about that until the end of the first period, and until the start of the second. Yeah, and that was one of my first. And then I realized the Flames had clinched. And I was like, oh, never mind, we've already clinched. And I was disappointed that we clinched after a loss, because that's not how we should be doing things, considering the type of game we've been playing all year, for the majority of the year at least. That's what I thought. And then basically the third, and then in the intermission, and basically actually before the game, I was literally just saying Flames are going to try in this one. Like, obvious. I was just thinking Vommelka's going to come in and stop us, beat the hell out of us. And the Yotes will just try to keep us intact. Or not intact. Keep us under control. Keep themselves intact. And they go up 1-0 really early. And I was like, yep, the Flames are always going to lose. They're not going to try. We just didn't try in the first. We just didn't try. Again, that same mentality and the same thought that I said earlier. just because you're the first team in your division, just because you're one of the top 5 teams in the league, or these top 5 competitors for the Stanley Cup, just because you have a big lead over who are second in your division, just because you've already clinched for the playoffs, doesn't mean you don't try against these teams. You want these points. You want to develop your confidence. You want to destroy them. And I sound very mean right now, but that's quite literally, you want to destroy them. And that was my biggest frustration. I was like, Flames are down 1-0 against the Coyotes. It is going exactly how I predicted. And I don't know, I read this one tweet, like Sutter held the Flames at gunpoint in the intermission, which is quite literally what must have happened in that intermission. Because we come out into the second period, and in the first 3 minutes, 11 seconds, score 4 goals. 4. Dylan Dubé, 38 seconds into the period. A minute 16 into the period, Andrew Mangiapane. 2:18, Kachuk. And 3:11, Dylan Dubé. When we made it 3-1, they held a timeout. And after the timeout, I'm literally serious. After the timeout, like 25 seconds after the timeout, Dylan Dubé scored. On the breakaway, literally the weirdest puck goes past Hardy Satari, and they pull Satari. And kind of stays 4-1 Flames. And I was like, well, this is how it should be, right? I was really happy. I was like, kind of into it. It was just like these 4 goals happened like bam, like that. And I wasn't even busy. I was literally, sometimes when you're like a little bit late to when the period starts and I missed, and I was basically just going to the room and basically I missed the first 30 seconds of the second. And it's not that I didn't want to watch it. I did want to watch it. We scored, and I was like, what? And I raced there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, already 1-0 Flames. And they made it 4-1 like that. And then Vejmelka comes in. I'm like, okay, now here where we get a little bit of pushback from Vejmelka. A little bit, but not really. Coleman and Lindholm get to and make it 6-1. And I was thinking in my mind, well, if they put Satari back in net for the third, that would be pretty awesome. Maybe we can get up to 10 goals here. I was pretty hype. And I was like, but that's unrealistic. But they were talking about the broadcast, how they don't want to send Vejmelka, who's their goaltender of the future. At least that's what it seems like right now. They don't want to send Vejmelka into the offseason with no confidence. And he's already allowed 2 goals. They don't want to put him out there again against this massive Flames attack. Send out Satari, and Satari got us, a lot of the goals he got were probably a little rough, I guess. A little bit harder to play against because Gaudreau gets a nice one, I think, just as the power play is ending. And then Kachuk gets a bit of a weird, just kind of redirects it onto goal and gets it in. And then Gaudreau gets a beautiful play, just Kachuk up the ice to Lindholm. Gaudreau carries into the zone. He passes that up to Lindholm. Lindholm just on the rush, just drop pass back to Johnny, and Johnny just puts that perfectly. And we win 9-1. I wanted 10, just like everyone else in the Scotiabank Saddledome did. But I'm not going to complain. This was a really, really nice, really fun game to watch. That being said, what do you say about the first period? That you go down 1-0. I know I'm complaining. I'm finding every little weakness to nitpick on. Come on, man. It was disappointing. Why do we not try? And Sutter must have been frustrated with us, considering that first period of play. And we come in and we score 6. 4 goals in, I think, 2 minutes, 33 seconds. It was really good. And I'm happy with overall that performance, that kind of performance. And we need that level of compete to be able to fight in these games and get 9 goals in the final 40 minutes. That being said, what I have to say is I'm really, really happy. I'm really hyped, really excited to watch this game. And I'm probably, years from now, I'm going to be watching the replay, the recap of this game and the highlights, because this is a very fun one. I'm going to look back on this one. I'm not impressed necessarily. I'm not impressed that the Flames scored 9 goals and they won 9-1 by 8 goals. I even said when the game started, I said the Flames, they're not going to try, and I was just upset, I guess, in general, considering how the Vegas game ended. And in this one, I was just disappointed. We go down 1-0, more negative, more pessimistic about the Flames in general. And my thought was, Flames can win this game 10-0, and that's very good. That's a very exciting. That's something that I would love to see it happen. But I'm not going to be specifically impressed with it, because Coyotes are the bottom team in the league. If you want to just hear some of the numbers, they're 22, 48, and 5 after this 9. Before that, I guess they were 22, 47, and 5 with 49 points on the year. And after this game, their goal differential is a whopping minus 104. Minus 104. Now, let that sink in. Minus 104. They have allowed 104 more goals than they have scored. And yeah, they're one of the top teams in the league to have allowed 5 goals. Like, the number of games they've allowed 5 goals, I think 4th in the league. In that category. They're a .327 point percentage. Believe that's the lowest in the league. They're a horrible, horrible hockey. They're on a 6-game losing streak. They were on a 5-game losing streak before this game. They are a horrible hockey team. They're the bottom team in the league. And being a top 5 competitor for the Stanley Cup, and I'm going to mention this again, top 5 competitor, which I think the Flames are this year for the Cup. Being that high level of play, we should have beat the Coyotes like anything. And I'm not impressed because this was expected. You beat teams like Arizona into the ground. You beat them and you send them back to Arizona crying. Like upset, broken. Because that's how the game you play. You win 9-1. Great job you won 9-1. But that is not something that that's specifically impressive. Something specifically that has to be like, oh my God, what a game. It's not. Because should be expected of this team to beat teams like Arizona 9-1. And when you get to that point of expectation, Flames are expected to beat the Kraken and not let the Kraken stay in the game the way they did. Let them go up 3-1. That's not the type of game we do. But again, Kraken, I think, are respectable. In the way they play, I think they at least have somewhat of a respectable game. But that's basically my thoughts on this. And I know I'm being very frustrated. I am getting frustrated over these games, and I probably shouldn't be getting as frustrated. But 9-1, I'm happy with the game. So that's the 3 games. Just some of the thoughts now. I want to ask you this. Who started the game against Arizona? Or no, I ask you this. Before the game, if you didn't know who was starting, who would you have wanted to start? And who do you have expected to start? I would have said Vladar. I would have wanted Vladar to start. Not as expected, but I would have wanted Vladar to start and Markstrom to start this game. I was like, oh my God, this guy is tired. Just think about it, just to put this into context. On the Flames schedule, which is somewhere. I've closed it. Okay, give me a second. I'm just going to open that back up. Because we need that. I need to just put that idea here. Yes, there we go. So, take a look at the schedule. Let's talk about the starts. Last game against Arizona, Markstrom. Against Vegas, Markstrom, and then he was pulled. Why was he pulled? Because he allowed 4 goals in a relatively few number of shots. But why was that? And I'm going to say Flames sucked. First, the guys in front of him sucked. I'm also going to say Markstrom didn't play the fullest game. And why was that? Because he's tired. Like, literally, he's tired. He started the game against Seattle before that as well. And pulled before the third. And that was, I think, quite literally to get the team going. Villar played the third period there. The game before that against Seattle, Markstrom played the entire game. We won 4-1. Against San Jose, that was the second game of a back-to-back, and Vladar started, which was very nice. But the game against Anaheim, Markstrom. The game against LA before that, Markstrom. The game against Seattle before that, Markstrom. Let's go into March now. The game against LA, which went to the shootout, Markstrom. The 2-1 loss to the Avalanche. I believe that was Markstrom. 9-5 against the Oilers, Markstrom. And I'm just going to... Sorry, I'm just going to check and make sure that was Markstrom. I believe it was Markstrom. Yeah, yes, it was Markstrom against Edmonton. Yep, it was Markstrom. In that one. The game before that, this was the second game of a back-to-back we had against Arizona. Let's take a look at that. And I think that was also Markstrom. Yeah, that was Markstrom. Yep, Markstrom. 2 days before that, a loss to the Sharks. That was also Markstrom. And then it was a back-to-back, Buffalo and Vancouver. And against Vancouver, we played Vladar. Total of Markstrom played for after that Vancouver game. Markstrom played 5 and then started at least 6, 7, 8 games. 8 straight games before Vladar came in and played the Sharks. And then Markstrom started another 2. And then he started the next 4 games after that. 4. I tell you. 4 games. And out of those 4 games, the game against the second game against Seattle and the game against Vegas, Markstrom was pulled in those 2 games. What makes us okay? Let's say these were against like competitor teams that are maybe looking to be in the playoffs this year. The game, listen names: 2 against Seattle, a game against Arizona, the bottom team in the league. San Jose, who's not in the playoffs. Anaheim, who's not in the Anaheim and San Jose was a back-to-back, so I guess one of them is Markstrom's game. Before that, going into March, the month of March, for the Flames. Arizona again, who's not in the playoffs. But you play Markstrom on a back-to-back, Arizona and Edmonton. Edmonton play Markstrom by all means, because they're a good team. I hate saying it as a Flames fan, but they're a competitor. Arizona, why would you play Markstrom on a back-to-back like that? Maybe because he's coming off a loss and he needs to get his confidence up. But seriously? It's the fact that Markstrom's being played against these non-competitor teams and that he's tired now. He's tired. Like, he's not... If you carry him, a tired Markstrom, into the playoffs, and he performs... Like, he's going to play well. I know that he's a fighter. He's a really good goaltender. But he performs maybe subpar to what he's been doing this entire year. Like, below his typical for this season. Then what? Then you're kind of screwed. Am I saying that they should play for the next 7 games of the season? No. Because then you're going to get cold Markstrom. This Markstrom who then played in 2 weeks into the playoffs. And then that's another problem on itself. On its own. But you have to give him a break. And now, looking forward, and ideally with the 7 games left, this is how I see the games being played. We have a back-to-back, 18th and 19th, Chicago and Nashville. Against Chicago, it should be Vladar. There's no question about that. Because it's a back-to-back. You have to think, well, which team's worse? Chicago's not competing. Nashville's competing, first of all. They're in the wild card. That's a potential playoff matchup. So you play Vladar against Chicago and Markstrom against Nashville. I'm saying you should play Markstrom against Nashville. But then you have a game against Dallas. Sure, they're fighting. Sure, they're competing. But you've already clinched. Now it's just about getting this team together, getting set for the playoffs. I think you should play Vladar against Dallas. And then against Vancouver. Vladar's beat Vancouver 5-2 last time we saw them. It should be Vladar against Vancouver. And then there's another game, maybe a 2-day break. There's a game against Nashville. Right? Nice, Markstrom's had a week-long break. And then you play Markstrom against Nashville because that's a playoff competitor. And then you have a day break and then a back-to-back to finish off the year. Minnesota and Winnipeg. I'm saying you start Markstrom against Winnipeg. Minnesota, since they're a really good team. And then do Vladar against Winnipeg and finish the year. That leaves out of the next 7 games, 3 for Markstrom, 4 for Vladar. I think, be fine if possibly you start Markstrom for one of the Dallas games or the Vancouver game. One of them, not both, but one of them. Just to kind of keep him going, because then he'd have an entire week off and might be a little cold after that. But I think that's how it should be. Just, that would be the best course of action, in my opinion. But, you have to play. You have to give Markstrom a break so he's fresh in the playoffs. He's good to go in the playoffs. But regardless, that's just my thoughts on it. So, yeah. That's kind of it on that front. So, I already kind of looked at, I was going to talk about sort of the next 2 weeks for the Flames, but I've kind of already talked about it. I think it's a pretty good week. I think it's not intense. I think the hardest game is going to be the Minnesota game since they're the top team and then the games against Nashville. But other than that, you don't have any like big teams like Colorado coming up. Florida, Tampa. We've already finished all our East games, but for argument's sake, we don't have any of those tough teams. We don't have a horrible schedule. We don't have St. Louis either. Minnesota, I think we can take them pretty easily, and it's going to be pretty good. Out of the next 7, we have 5 on the road, 2 at home. I think that's going to be good for us considering how much we've played at home. We had that road trip earlier, but also just looking at like the last 2 months, we've just been at home majority of the time, and so it's going to be good to kind of have that because we have 2 on the road, and we're back home for 2, and then we have 3 on the road again. So that's going to be good back and forth, good variation. I think the Flames can pull it off, try to win all 7. I know what you're all saying. Wow, that's high expectations. But I would, I would really think the Flames can pull off to win all 7. Um, Ideally, Flames go 5-2-0 in the last 7 here. I think it would be fine if we lose 2 of the games. I don't know against who. Maybe against Minnesota and maybe one against Nashville. But we really want to beat Nashville just to get their confidence low before I think we're going to see them in the playoffs. But that's that. And now I talk about the playoff situation. What are the ideal matchups? What does everything look like? Say, look at the standings. I'm going to go into wild card. And see what my thoughts are. First of all, just looking at the teams that have clinched. Let's go to the West first. Colorado's clinched conference, which means that they're going to be first in the conference this season. Colorado can lose the rest of their games this year, and Flames can win all 7, and they'll still be first. Disappointing, I know. I hate it. Regardless, St. Louis is clinched. We've clinched, and that's kind of it. What do the playoffs look like right now? I want to start with the wild card, because that's interesting. So take a look at Vegas, who've been competing, and now there's talk like, oh, okay, Vegas is looking like they're right back into it. I'm going to say otherwise. I don't see Vegas making the playoffs this year. Why? Because, let's take a look at the schedules. There is, first of all, the teams are kind of competing with LA and Dallas, because if Vegas gets ahead in LA in the standings, they'll make it into 3rd in the Pacific. And if they are able to crack into the wild card spot, they'll make it 2nd wild card. So those are the 2 positions from them. So they'll either get Colorado or Edmonton in the playoffs. That's what it looks like right now, if they make it. Let's talk about them beating the wild card, which is, I think, more feasible than them getting into the playoff spot. They're kind of currently fighting against Dallas and Nashville, actually. Wow. Actually, Nashville and Dallas have identical records. Yeah. Okay, interesting. I didn't realize that earlier. But Nashville and Dallas both have 75 games played. Vegas is 76, so they both have a game in hand against Vegas. They both have 4 more points than Vegas, though. Dallas is 4, so you have a game in hand and 4 more points over the Golden Knights. Like, that's tough. That's pretty tough. I'm going to take a look at just what the Vegas schedule looks like coming up and whether that's realistic for them, if they can actually take on the rest of the schedule. So, yeah. They've got 6 games left this year. New Jersey's their next game. Oh, that's an easy one. Caps, which is going to be a tough one. Sharks, Dallas, Chicago on a back-to-back, and then St. Louis. So this is a doable schedule. I'm also going to take a look at Dallas's upcoming schedule, just so we can compare and contrast. They have so Dallas is a bit more like a crammed schedule, I would say, because they're going to a 3-4. So Vancouver, Daybreak, and then back-to-back Edmonton, Calgary. So good for the Flames, I guess, to have Dallas on back-to-back. And then they have Seattle on Saturday, and then 2-day break, Vegas, Arizona on a back-to-back, and Anaheim. It's going to be a heavyweight match. Vegas and Dallas. I think maybe the winner of that will determine who makes the playoffs and who doesn't. And I think that they literally could be, but anything can still happen. To be honest, I think Dallas has the tougher schedule going forward. Especially considering they've got like a bunch of teams, like they've got Edmonton, Calgary in a back-to-back, and then Vegas as well. So, okay, interesting. I'm also going to take a look at Nashville's upcoming. So Nashville has 2 games against the Flames. As far as, that's the Flames schedule. 2 against the Flames for Nashville. And going into their season schedule. Okay, so they have one Sunday, so which is today as I'm recording this, against St. Louis, and then Calgary a day later. They have a 3-day break, and then Tampa and Minnesota on a back-to-back. Day break, and then Calgary again. Day break, and then Colorado and Arizona. Whoosh. Sheesh. Wow, okay. So, as we speak, Nashville's on the 2nd game of a back-to-back, which is St. Louis, is what I meant. If I said Seattle earlier, I meant St. Louis. A 3-4 and then a 4-6, the middle of that right now, where they've got St. Louis, a day break, and then Calgary, which is Flames. 3 days off, and then Tampa Bay, which is a tough one, and then a back-to-back against Minnesota, and then Calgary. So a 3 and 4, Tampa, Minnesota, and Calgary. It's a tough one. And then that continues into another 3 and 4, which is Calgary, a day break, and then Colorado and Arizona on a back-to-back. I think they have a tough schedule ahead. Ideally, I would say, for Nashville, kind of looking at from their perspective, ideally, out of the next 7, ideally they would win all 7, but I think if they can win 4 of them, if they can take Arizona, if they can take maybe Minnesota, St. Louis, and then maybe a game against Calgary. I don't want them to beat the Flames, but maybe it's better if Calgary loses to Nashville in maybe in at least one of those games, and just to help push the Vegas Golden Knights out of the playoffs. And I can see that. So maybe they win 4. Dallas, looking at their schedule, they beat Vancouver, they beat Edmonton, right? Maybe they lose to Calgary. I think Dallas could ideally win 5 of them. Vancouver, maybe Edmonton, Seattle for sure, Arizona for sure, and Anaheim for sure. So maybe they can win 4, potentially 5 of them. Maybe they can beat Vegas as well. I think Dallas beats Vegas. Vegas is done. At least Dallas has kind of pushed themselves away from Vegas, and Vegas has kind of been pushed out further. And again, there's so much that can change, right? Going into this, but that's kind of what it looks like. Now I want to take a look at just LA and their upcoming schedule, just to get an idea here. They've only got 5 games left this year. Okay. So then coming on 2-day break, on the 19th they'll face against Anaheim. They have a day break. And then there's Chicago. They have a day break. And then Anaheim. They have a 3-day break. And then Seattle and Vancouver back-to-back. LA could win all 5 of these games. Going to be quite honest. All 5 of these are non-playoff teams as of now. At least, yeah, they're not, I don't think any of these teams are going to make it. At least Vancouver. And that's 5 games. That could be easy wins for the LA Kings. They are struggling with injuries, however, which means ideally they win 4 games. They kind of solidify themselves in the playoffs. Look, Vegas has a shot at it. They've got 6 games upcoming. 3 of them against teams that aren't in playoff spots. 2 of them that are solidified in playoffs, which is Washington and St. Louis. And then a game against Dallas, who they're competing with for a spot. Critical. Nashville. They only have 1 game against a non-playoff team. That's Arizona. They're the bottom team in the league, which has to be the easiest. But that's also the last game of the year. So Nashville basically messes it up against Seattle, Tampa, 2 games against Calgary, and then Minnesota, and even Colorado. And they go into Arizona. They might already be out of the playoffs by the time they get to Arizona. But it's close and tight like that. But yeah, Nashville is a little tiny bit screwed considering they have 7 games and a lot of them are in close proximity. Because they're tired. Like, they're on a back-to-back. They just played Chicago. Now they're St. Louis. And then they have Calgary. Then they have a 3-day break to get all recharged. And then they'll play Tampa and Minnesota on a back-to-back. Yeah, that's tough for them. That's very tough. Ideally, they win 4 of them. Dallas. And by the way, if you're asking me, I don't want Vegas to make it to the playoffs. I don't think they will. Just looking at it from a perspective. And it's also important to remember that even if Nashville and Dallas have tougher schedules than Vegas does, they still have a game in hand and also 4 points over Vegas. So, something to consider. But Dallas, they have 4 games against non-playoff teams, 2 against playoff teams, and then 1 against the team they're competing, which is Vegas. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Which then puts me into this thought, and I didn't think about this earlier. Flames and Preds have 2 games in the final 2 weeks of the year. Let's say Flames win both in regulation. That's handing 2 L's to the Nashville Predators, who I would be surprised if they lose to Tampa. So that's 3 losses right there, and they're probably look at Colorado and Minnesota. If they lose both against Calgary, right? Let's say Flames win both games. Then they're left with Well, Arizona, I'm going to count that as a win already. Tampa, Colorado, Minnesota, and St. Louis. St. Louis, which is tonight. Maybe, yeah, that game's going to start in a little bit. Maybe I might watch it if I have time, because that one would be interesting to watch. Yeah, but seeing, let's say Preds lose to either one of Colorado or Tampa, and they win the other one. Right, that's already 3 losses right there. They're going to win the one against Arizona, so they would get. Honestly, I think they'd lose to Tampa and Colorado as well. Maybe they beat Minnesota. Maybe, just maybe. Yeah, but if they lose both to the Flames, that's potentially giving Vegas a shot at making the second wild card and replacing Nashville. Or no, replacing Dallas, sorry. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe just Nashville just gets pushed out of it and Vegas comes into second or first wild card. Second wild card, maybe. Whew, that's a bit of a shifter. So, we've never even thought, like, if the Flames go ahead and maybe, I don't know, give Nashville one of the wins. Maybe they beat Nashville one of the games, that's for sure, but they give Nashville one of the wins. That could be pushing Vegas out of the picture. For the long run, I would much rather have Nashville coming in and they get like a couple extra wins. They get like they beat us one game in the regular season. But if that's what it takes to get to just push Vegas out of the playoffs, I would take it as a Flames fan, because I don't want to see Vegas coming in, because they come in and they're going to be a beast. We all know that. But yeah, I spent way too long just talking about the wild card race in the West. I'm gonna keep a close eye on these teams here, and just looking at LA as well. LA's I don't think Vegas is gonna make it in third Pacific. That seems more of like a farther reality. But yeah, things are getting interesting. I will say things are definitely getting more interesting. Just as we head closer into the playoffs. Let's talk about the East. Oh yeah, East is gonna take me 30 seconds to talk about, because even Boston, a wildcard team, is clinched. So, oh wow, we've already got everyone clinched. All top three, Metro, Carolina, New York, and Pittsburgh have clinched. Atlantic top 3, Florida, Toronto, Tampa have clinched. And even wildcard Boston is clinched. So now what? Washington has 94 points in 75 games. They've played one more game than the Isles, who are the third team in the wildcard race, with 78 points. They have a 15-point lead on the Isles. Mathematically, Isles have 8 games left. They win all 8, and they finished the year with 95 points. Washington has 7 games left. I'm not even looking at their schedule. Washington has 7 games left. They lose all 7. Then they're out of the playoffs. So Washington basically... so the only way Washington doesn't make the playoffs is if they lose their next 7 games. And the Isles win their next 8, the rest of their games this year. So basically Washington wins no more games this year. The Isles win all of their games this year. Columbus is also in the mix. They have as many games played as Washington. They have 76 points. Which means if Columbus wins... So even if Columbus wins all of their games, they're not going to make it. But if the Isles win all of their games and Washington loses all of their games, then the Isles will make it. And that's the only reason Washington isn't clinched. I think Washington gets one more win and Isles get one more loss. I think that's going to give Washington Capitals the clinching as well. So I'm not even going to bother to really talk about this. This is pretty set in stone. It was set in stone like a month ago. Pretty much when it was like the difference between the 8 playoff teams and the rest of the division conference came into play, and it was like, okay, yeah, these 8 are making it, the rest are not. These 8 are not. It's pretty much it for the East, I would say. What do the playoff matchups look like now? Let's talk about the East first, because it's so set in stone. I'm gonna take a look here and think: could Boston potentially crack into third place Atlantic? Boston's an Atlantic team, I believe. So, yeah. Sure, I'm going to go into the divisional standings here to just get an idea. Could Boston potentially beat Tampa? So you get ahead of Tampa in the standings and make it an active... This is a thought. And then Toronto gets Boston in the first round. By the way, I would want Toronto to face Tampa, because I want Toronto to lose in the first. I want Toronto to lose in the first round and just continue there. losing streak in the first round because I enjoy it. The reason I follow the Leafs as much as I do is just to see them lose. Not gonna lie about that. um, hmm. Interesting. Taking a look. Could they? Let's take a look at some of the. I'm just gonna try to close a bunch of tabs. I have so much stuff open on my screen right now. Let's go into the Tampa Bay Lightning schedule, as well as the Boston Bruins schedule. By the way, I think it's pretty safe to say that Toronto has confirmed that they're going to finish second. I think they will finish second in the Atlantic. Look at the Boston schedule and Lightning schedule. Boston has they have a bunch left. So Boston has 7 games left this year. Tampa has also 7 left. Let's look at the Bruins schedule first, because they're in the wild card. They have St. Louis on the 19th. So right now they're today off and tomorrow off. So 17th and 18th off. 19th in St. Louis, a day off, and then they're in Pittsburgh, a day off, and then they're at home against the Rangers, and then on a back-to-back, again, they're in Montreal. So they're going to have to travel a bit there from Boston to Montreal. That's not much, though. A day off, and they're back at home against Florida. 27th, a day off. Buffalo, and then Toronto on a back-to-back. So they're at home against Buffalo, and they're going to go to Toronto. Interesting. So they have 2 games against non-playoff teams, Montreal and Buffalo. And let's say Boston wins those 2. And what's the overall points that they're behind? They have the same amount of games, and Boston's 3 points behind. Which means out of the 7, Tampa. Well, let's say out of the 7, ideally Boston wins 5 of them. Ooh, that's hard though. They have a lot of big teams here. They're gonna beat Buffalo and Montreal, let's say. Let's say they beat St. Louis as well, and maybe they beat Pittsburgh or maybe the Rangers, and they lose to let's say Florida and Toronto. And that's 5-0 right there. I'm not looking at overtime. I think just 5 wins, 2 losses. They get 10 more points, which is that would be ideal for them. That would be 107 for them. Looking at the Tampa schedule, they have a 2-day break as well, and then they're at home against Detroit, a day off. At home against Toronto, a day off. At home against Nashville, which we talked about a little bit earlier. And then on a back-to-back, they have Florida. So they have Nashville and Florida on a back-to-back, a day off. Columbus, a day off. Columbus and Isles on a back-to-back. Okay, so their schedule is a little bit more crammed, I would say, compared to the Boston. They actually have pretty similar schedules. Never mind. They're both playing on the same nights as well, I think, corresponding nights. What do I see happening here? Tampa, okay, well, they've got Detroit, 2 against Columbus and the Isles. That's 4 wins right there for them. Let's say they win those 4. Let's say they beat Nashville as well. That's 5 wins. Maybe let's say they win 4. Because that seems realistic. They're going to win at least 4 in the remaining year. That gives them 8 points. 108. So even if Boston wins 5, they're still going to be in the wild card. Maybe Tampa wins 3. Maybe because they've been a little bit weak lately. They've come off a 7-4 win, but I'm saying they've been a little bit weak. Maybe not the best of late. What's their last 10 record? Tampa, they're 5-3-2 last 10. Never mind. They're pretty good. They look pretty good right now. Maybe Boston wins 6 of their next 7. Maybe Boston wins 6 of their next 7. Then they get up to 109 points. And let's say Tampa wins 4. Then they crack Tampa. But I don't think that's going to happen. So I think it's going to be pretty much set in stone. Do I think Washington's going to take the first wild card and Boston's going to get the second? I don't think so. I think Boston's definitely a better team. But let's take a look at the Washington schedule as well. And, yeah. Oh, the Caps. I'm just opening up their schedule here. There's an ad on my screen right now, by the way. Just so you know. Why I'm taking so long to open the schedule. There it is. Caps schedule. They have 7 left. Okay. So they have a day off today, 17th. Then they have a game against Colorado on the 18th. Day off. Vegas. Day off. Arizona. Day off. Toronto. Day off. Isles. Day off. Another one against the Isles. And then a back-to-back. So back against the two New York teams, the Isles and then Rangers. Okay, well, their schedule is actually looking okay. They're going to lose to Colorado. Like, let's say they win against the Isles both times and then Arizona. That's 3 wins. And let's say they get a win somewhere else. So they get 4 wins. Washington gets 4 wins. That would bring them up. That would be a total of 8 more wins. That would bring them 102 points. Oh, and then there's Boston. Like, let's say Boston wins 4. Not 4. Let's say Boston wins 3 games, which that might be realistic as well. Because they have a, I would say, generally some pretty solid teams to play. Let's say we win 3. That gives them 6 more points to 103. They will still be ahead of Washington at the end. But maybe Boston only wins 2. And then Washington come up. But I doubt it. I doubt that happening. So the East is pretty set, to be honest. Not saying the same as some of the playoff matchups that could happen, though. Firstly, it's going to be Carolina against most likely Washington. Yeah, Carolina. Well, that's an interesting one. And then you're going to have Florida, Boston. That's going to be a heavyweight. Rangers, Pens, and Toronto, Tampa. I'm thinking, should I get right into talking about how it's usually going to go, or wait maybe till next week or the week after? Okay, that's interesting though, for sure. It's going to be the East is a tough one. Because look at the talent. All 8 teams, I would say, all 8 teams are so good. Who cares if you were the first team? Who cares if you're Florida? Actually, no, Florida's going to get Washington. Sorry, and then Boston's going to... Who cares if you're Florida and you get second wild card? And you're who's in second wild card? You see Washington. You see Ovechkin. So that's talent. That's just crazy. Carolina, who's going to get Boston. Right? Yeah, Carolina's going to get Boston. That's a big one. Those are 2 really good teams. Right? Well, so each matchup is going to be a solid. All 8 of these teams are really, really solid teams. So that's a crazy matchup. And then now you go into the West, where it seems a lot more set in stone, So right now it looks like the Flames are going to get Nashville, which is ideal. I want to face off. I want Nashville. Unless Dallas. Dallas might be easier than Nashville. I would take Nashville or Dallas. I wouldn't take St. Louis. But right now it doesn't look like St. Louis or Minnesota are going to drop down into any of the wildcard spots. So, right now we're looking at Colorado, Dallas, Calgary, Nashville, and then St. Louis, Minnesota, Edmonton, Los Angeles. Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's see, now compared to the East, this is a little bit different in the sense that you've got some pretty much decided matchups. You're Colorado, and you look in the wild card, you're like, oh, we have Dallas. That's a pretty definite matchup. It's not like you're seeing really a really high end team. Dallas is a good team, but they're not a big time competitor, and they've never really been a competitor in the last 10 years. Yeah, Washington's won a cup. Dallas has not been near the level Washington's been this year or previous years. Even Nashville, they're really not big time competitors for the cup compared to Calgary, right? You're not seeing freaking Boston Pasta, Marchand and Bergeron, right? It's a lot more set in stone. I would say St. Louis, Minnesota, and Edmonton, Los Angeles are pretty evenly matched series, because Minnesota's hot. Minnesota's really good. St. Louis on an 8-game winning streak. Right? Edmonton, Los Angeles, they've been fighting all year, I think. Even though Los Angeles seems like the worst team, I think they can easily win that series. Same goes for Edmonton. Edmonton's got McDavid, Draisaitl. That duo is gonna go buzz, and they could win, or as easily those two could go fizz away, and Los Angeles could. I want LA to win, just so you know, because that's probably gonna be better for Flames in the second round. But yeah, it is definitely looking yeah, the West just seems like it's going to shape up to be Colorado Flames in the conference finals. Interesting, though. Interesting. Is that kind of the playoffs? Okay, yeah. One last thing I did want to talk about. Ideal. What's the ideal situation for the Flames? The ideal situation, I would say, for the Flames, um, is that something happens, something weird in the standings, and some kind of mess up, and the eliminated teams come back, and um, Arizona, Seattle, Chicago, San Jose, and also like Anaheim. All five of them like come into the playoffs, and Colorado gets eliminated. St. Louis gets eliminated. They all come into the playoffs, and in the East, Montreal, Philly, New Jersey, Ottawa, Buffalo, Detroit, they all come in, and the Flames win the cup. No, that's ideal. That's the ideal situation. Realistically, that's more of a joke or anything, but realistically, ideally, I would want to see either Nashville or Dallas in the first round. Those two teams are good teams, but they're not like solid teams. They're not competitors, really, to say the least. And if Calgary gets them, that would be really good. I don't want to see Vegas come in though. Vegas, even if they're second wild card, like even if it's gonna be Vegas, Colorado, even if Vegas is gonna give Colorado more trouble, I just don't want to see Vegas come. Well, if we see Vegas, Colorado in the first round, then what? Okay, now there's a whole new thought. Oh shoot. Oh gosh, Vegas, Colorado. Then would I rather have? Well, then Vegas could beat Colorado. That's possible. Then Vegas could beat Colorado, and then if Vegas beats Colorado, Vegas would face against like St. Louis and Minnesota. Then it would be anarchy. At least on one side of it, right? And then we'd see who the winner of St. Louis, Minnesota, go up against Vegas, which that's going to be a pretty much a 50-50 St. Louis, Minnesota. That's probably the most evenly matched one in my opinion. Wow, yeah, and then you'd see Vegas, and then what? And then would St. Louis win? Like St. Louis, maybe St. Louis. Would St. Louis be like maybe Minnesota loses and the Flames get to see one of either Vegas, St. Louis, or Minnesota in the conference finals? Calgary, considering they beat whoever wins the LA Edmonton series, which I'm putting as LA. I'm saying LA would beat Edmonton in a series. Then what? That's a very interesting thought. I never thought of it that way. Maybe and this is what I think, maybe it's just better to keep Vegas out of the equation, just be like, well, let's stick with what we got, right? Because then who knows, Vegas becomes a bigger beast than Colorado in the playoffs, right? All these thoughts in my head. Wow. This thing never came to my mind, and I've never heard this possibly talked out, like by others out there. Something to consider. But then if Vegas makes first wild card, I don't want to see Vegas in the first round. Which is then, because then if Vegas can beat Dallas, that means they can very easily, if Vegas can get ahead of Dallas and get Dallas' spot, they can just easily take Nashville's spot. Considering that Dallas and Nashville are pretty much neck to neck. They're both 75 games played, 43, 27, and 5 with 91 points, a 607 point percentage. They're the exact same records. Am I thinking too much? I feel like I'm thinking too much. This is something I need to think about more. Oh, actually, I'm gonna be checking this like 3 times a day now. Interesting stuff. Ideally, Flames see Nashville. That's gonna be looking at the possibilities right now. But I would actually probably take Dallas over Nashville, to be honest. Get redemption against Dallas for beating us back in the bubble playoffs. Get back at them. But just thoughts, I guess. Suppose. That's kind of it for me, for my thoughts on that. Moving on from the playoffs, just want to touch on the Leafs a little bit. What are the Leafs up to? What's Auston Matthews up to? Let's take a look. I don't know. Feels like every game he scores like 2 goals. I don't think he had any goals against Ottawa though last game. Let's go into the Leafs, Maple Leafs. Okay, I'll just check them out here. And let's also go into the stats, like the league leaders for goals here, because I'm very curious. Goals. There we go. Does he have 50? He's 58. Let's take a look. And then Kachuk and Lindholm are 8th and 9th. They're tied at 39 goals each. 58 goals. My gosh, the guy's got 58 goals in only 70 games played. The Leafs have only played 70? I don't think so. They've probably played more. How many games do the Leafs have left? They have a total of 7 games left. Yeah. Okay. So the next 7 games, do I think Matthews can hit 70 goals? I want him to, obviously. I mean, there's a part of me that just, I'm sure there's just a part of me that just really likes Matthews for the way he plays and like the goals, like the crazy talent that he has. Could he hit 7? He has 7 games to do it. He's got the Isles. Oh, he's gonna eat. Well, it's the Leafs. They're probably gonna lose to the Isles, the Flyers, and the Red Wings, and they're gonna crush the Lightning, Panthers, Caps, and Bruins. If we all know the Leafs, that's probably what's gonna happen. But to be honest, like they've got the Isles, Flyers, Lightning, Florida, Washington on the back-to-back, Detroit, and then 2-day break, and then Boston. It seems doable. He can do it. This is Matthews. He's insane. Maybe he gets like a hat trick one of the games. That leaves him with 9 more in 8 games. Maybe he gets like 2 games where he scores 2 goals each. That would leave him with 5 goals left to do in 7 games. That's very doable. That's Matthews right there, right? 5 goals and 7. That's easy. And maybe it's like another 2-goal game, which will leave him with 3 and 6. Yeah. I mean, he can do it for sure, but looks at his schedule. He's going to get 65, no question. Like 7 and 7. That guy got this. He's been crazy. He's crazy. Matthews is just. Yeah, he's got 50 and 50. He's just such a talented player. But yeah, maybe. Who knows? But the Leafs in general. They almost lost to the Sens in overtime. Gio, my boy, scored. They beat the Caps 7-3. And then they lost to Buffalo. Before, they also gave a 5-1 lead the week before to Florida. This is just, how do you lose 5-2 to Buffalo? Toronto. They've been doing that all year, haven't they? They're telling Buffalo won the season series as well against them. I might have to check on them, but I do believe they did. Oh, gosh. But maybe they, yeah, I don't know. They're going to make the playoffs. There's no question about that, but they're an interesting team. I just want to talk about Matthews for a sec. So, yeah, I do want him to win, get 70 here. And my thought process is, Draisaitl's the other guy who's competing for the Maurice Richard. I think it's going to be Matthews versus Draisaitl. Draisaitl has 54 goals with 7 games left, I believe. It's 4 goals short, and my thought, especially for a long time, was like, well, look, if none of the Flames, like Kachuk and Lindholm, they're up there in goals, but they're most likely not going to win them. Like, come on, you're telling me Lindholm in the next 7 games, he's going to score like 25 goals? Kachuk's going to score 25 goals in the next 7 games? No, that's not happening. And so therefore, if none of the Flames are going to win it, I don't really know who I'm necessarily specifically cheering for to win it. And that brings me to the point. I don't want Draisaitl, the Oiler, winning the Maurice Richard. Therefore, I'm cheering for Matthews. And as I'm supporting Matthews in the Maurice Richard race, and in that, I'm kind of like, wow, this guy's so good, sort of thing. That's happened to me. He's so good. It's insane. Yeah. So I talk about that. Let's talk about some of the NHL debuts. Power, Beniers, I believe Ken Johnston also had his debut. Let's take a look at some of their numbers in these performances. Owen Power. Power, first of all, first overall last year. He's playing with the Buffalo Sabres. He had his debut against the Leafs, I believe. There we go. Where is it? Fuck, I'm on the wrong side for checking this stuff out. Let's go to, yeah, okay. There we go. Owen Power. 3 games of Sabres. He had his first career point. Congratulations to Owen Power. First career NHL point. Nice. I like the Sabres. I have a soft spot for them. And I absolutely hated them when they beat us in overtime. When they beat the Flames in overtime. Take a look at Owen Power. There we go. He has first career point. Against the St. Louis Blues. His first career assist. Yeah, an assist. That's nice. Very happy for the youngster. What about Beniers? I just want to check all these guys out because, Matty Beniers, who's with the Seattle, he has first career point in his first career game against the Calgary Flames. Yeah. Does he have to do it against the Flames? I'll just search him up. Okay. And see. I think he has that one assist. He might have. Did he get his first career goal yet? Thinking. I'll just look at some of these stats and then share my overall thoughts on these guys. These young guys just making their debuts in the NHL. He already had his first career goal. His first career assist against the Flames and first career goal against the Devils. I have to see this. Let's see. There we go. I found it. Let's check this out. So I've got to it. Yeah. I think Ken Johnson was another one of the guys who made his NHL debut in the past week. The Blue Jackets. Let's take a look. On the draw. Wins it. Up. Rebound. Oh, what a rebound. Dawes obviously the one to leave an open rebound in the open crease. And that's beautiful. That's awesome. Nice. Gotta say him. Happy for this kid. He's one of my favorite players. One of my favorite young prospects. He also has a tip, went off the post, and that's the most Devils goal to allow. By the way, if you've seen this goal clip, it's all over online, I'm sure. Bro, Dawes, what are you doing? Nice, you scored your first career goal, but like Nico Dawes, he's just there. Like he doesn't even know where the puck is, and it's in the crease, and the defenseman like are racing to it, and Beniers like buries it. Say like Ken Johnson, what he's doing? Oh, he's played 2 games and has done nothing. That's harsh. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make it sound harsh, but he hasn't gotten any points yet. I'm sure he will. He's also got such a good turnout. But that's just 3 main guys I want to check out. What are my thoughts on this? Great for these guys. Great for these young kids. Power, Beniers, Kent Johnson, coming in and doing what they're doing. I'm really happy for them. That's obviously these guys are the future of the NHL. Specifically, who's my favorite out of these 3 Beniers? Just cause I don't like the Sabres. I did used to, and then they beat us, and then I'm just bitter now. But yeah, I'm happy for all of them. Really nice to see them succeed and come in, and especially Beniers with his first career goal. He's a point per game in his career. So maybe let's say he plays 1,000 games, he's going to hit the 500 goal mark and 500 assist mark. He's on pace for that at least. He's on pace for a point per game career. It's too early to tell, I know. But in all seriousness, though, I'm really happy for these youngsters. They're doing a lot of good stuff, and they're the future of the NHL. So I'm gonna take it that way, and happy to see them come in and play here. Obviously, considering these 3 teams, Columbus is sort of out of it as well, playoff race wise. Buffalo, obviously, Seattle, obviously. They're bringing these young guys in. They signed them all out of Michigan, I believe. Michigan State? I don't know. I think. I'm going to check. Just fact check that. Make sure they were all out of... Yeah, University of Michigan. I think all 3 of them were from there. Matty Beniers. Easy, University of Michigan. Yep, U of Michigan. Okay, and Kent Johnson. Also, okay, yeah, so all 3 played together. 3 best prospects in hockey playing in the same university, which is nice. But yeah, they're the fusion. I'm happy to see them come in, sign their contracts in the NHL, and start playing. Especially Power. He's going to be one of the future top players for the Buffalo Sabres. I mean, they've got 2 first overall picks, Dahlin and Power on the back end, right? He's going to be one of their future. He's Beniers. He's their first true top center in Kraken history. First ever guy to get drafted there. So, big deal for that team, I'm sure. And Obviously, he is. And Ken Johnson is going to be part of the future for Columbus as well. They've got it right. Columbus is a good team. They're already a good team. They're going to get these new prospects in. And in a few years, I see them competing for the Cup as well with Laine and Werenski. Boquist. So, for sure. That's my thoughts on that. And finally, one topic that I added last second I mentioned earlier was Treliving's quote on Johnny Gaudreau. Going back to the Flames topic here. What Brad T had to say with the Calgary Flames on After Hours on Sports, and especially Johnny Gaudreau re-signing him. And so I'm just going to take a look at the quote, if I can find it specifically here. There we go. So the quote was, on After Hours after the game against Arizona, talking about just the top players and keeping them in all the UFA stuff that's going to happen. It's going to be a busy offseason to get all three re-signed, like Mangiapane, Kachuk, also Shillington, like he's playing so well. Those guys. This is what he had to say. And I quote Brad Treliving on this. But obviously, Johnny being unrestricted, we're going to do everything we humanly possibly can to have him back here and to be a Flame for a long, long time. He also said, this wasn't the main one. I literally read the wrong one. Sorry. That's one of them. But he also said, I want to read the quote. I don't know like, but if you have heard it, you know what I'm talking about. Said, there it is. We're going to move heaven and earth and do everything we possibly can to get Johnny back here. We're going to do everything we humanly possibly can to have him back here and be a Flame for a long, long time. Obviously, no question about it. Honestly, yeah. Yeah, and I'm just happy to see that this effort's going to happen. I've said this before. Johnny Gaudreau is my favorite player on the Flames, and my favorite player in the entire NHL. One of my favorite players all time ever to play. Because when I got into hockey, this guy was a young star, like doing so much, and I basically my favorite player. I'm so happy to see him. He's at 105 points. He's tied third place in the NHL with points. I'm really happy to see that for sure. Yeah, tied third was with Draisaitl, 105 points. I'm so happy to see him succeeding. My basic scenario was like, we're not going to be able to re-sign him, and I think we can. He said he's going to do everything possible. And I know that, and now it's just confirmed that Gaudreau's going to be the top priority in the offseason. And I want him to say he's my favorite player. And so it just shows he's going to be the top priority. And I haven't talked too much about the overall offseason looks for the Calgary Flames. Like, what's it going to be? Because there's Gaudreau to resign, Kachuk's an RFA. There's also Shillington, who's been having a really, really good year. Mangiapane, who has 32 goals. He's looking to maybe have even 35 goals by the end of the year. 35 goals, 65 points for him. Maybe 60-something points. Potentially. They're all contracts coming to an end, and for Brad Treliving, it's going to be a big year to get them all back, right? And this is a big concern. The cap situation kind of looks like they need to trade about a $5-6 million, like ideally a $5-6 million player, in order to be able to have enough cap space to resign. Those guys could be Backlund. He's on a $5-ish million deal. Luch, who's on a $5-ish million deal. And then there's Monahan, who's on a $6 million deal. He's gone into surgery, and he's such a hard worker. In my opinion, he's one of the core members of this team. And he has been for so long. He's done so much for this team. And at a point around the trade deadline, I was on the trade Monahan wagon. But honestly, after just seeing what he's doing, after basically everything he's done, all the hard work he puts into this, the effort he puts in for the team, he's had to go into surgery. But, even through injury, he battles for the team. It's hard to think that Monahan could go. And obviously, I've seen the press conference like, well, if you want to keep Monahan, it's going to be next to impossible. Like, it's not, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be almost impossible to try to keep try to keep everyone, and also resign Gaudreau, Kachuk, Mangiapane, Shillington, etc., etc. which means could Monahan go? And this is kind of a thought in my mind, and I'm just like not trying to think about this too much. Just focus on the seat, like not trying to think about this too much because it's a lot to think about. Just to think how this offseason could look for the Flames, and it for right now to me, it was like, well, I mean, what do you do? And right now it looks like if it means not being able to re-sign Johnny Gaudreau, and I guess Matthew Tkachuk as well, if it means not being able to do them, if we keep Monahan and we're not able to get those guys back, Monahan's going to go. Gaudreau's going to be the top priority, and after that, obviously, it's going to be Tkachuk, Mangiapane, Shillington, who are going to be the top priorities to re-sign for the Flames. And if it means that's not possible, Monahan's going to go. If it means you can re-sign Johnny Gaudreau by keeping Monahan on the team, Monahan's going to go. Like, it seems obvious. Like, he said, we're going to do everything humanly possible to keep Johnny Gaudreau on this team. And it seems it's going to be that way. Like, it's going to happen. And if Monahan goes, it's inevitable. And again, I'm not going to say anything, kid. Maybe we make it possible. Maybe we make it work. Maybe we buy out Monahan and sign him to a lower contract. And then keep him on a lower contract. Something. It's all possible. It's all on the table. And just to say, that's what it looks like right now. Do I have anything really to talk about? How long are we into this? And almost an hour and a half. Pretty good. This was a fun one to record. It felt good to get all my frustrations out and share my thoughts on the Flames week. We had a 9-1 win in a separate game where Tkachuk had a hat trick. Gaudreau had 100 points, and yet it was one of the most frustrating weeks for the Calgary Flames. Or at least for me as a Calgary Flames fan. But that will be all for this week's podcast. I will see you back next week, where I think I'll continue talk about the next 4 games for the Calgary Flames. In Chicago, in Nashville, against Dallas, and Vancouver. We'll also talk about how the playoffs are shaping up. Maybe by then we'll really, really confirm, fully see what sort of the wild card situation is shaping up to, especially in the West. And with the playoffs look like, we'll talk about more of that. And that should be another events that are happening in the NHL, because there's things always happening around the league. Talk about that. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to previous podcasts as well. And I hope you enjoyed listening. If you have any thoughts, opinions, if you agree with something I said, disagree, any questions, thoughts, anything you would like me to talk about in the next episode, tell me in the comment section down below. I'll be more than willing to check out what you have to say and talk about it next episode. So, thank you so much for listening. Have a good day, and I will see you next week, unless I have to make a video midweek to express my frustrations about the Calgary Flames. Thank you so much, and have a good day.